letting the mic kick in. Is that good? Yeah, there it goes. Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Jim Derlatka, for those that don't know me. Thank you for coming to May's edition of the MacAdmins group. We're going to go through a whole pile of stuff today. We're going to, you want to go to the next slide for me?
Nope. Sorry, that's not, okay, there we go.
Okay, so for those who don't know, last meeting we did set up a YouTube channel. So what we're trying to do now with the cameras and everything is live stream our event and then also post the event directly onto YouTube so that anyone who missed it or is not able to come in person can also view it remotely. So that's our YouTube handle. If you guys aren't already subscribed to that channel, go and please subscribe. Next slide. Okay, so code of conduct. We always do the code of conduct. We have a couple things going on. We'll talk about who's hiring. We'll talk about some logos. Brett and KJ from CDW are going to talk about AI concepts, an intro to those concepts. We have a vendor, Spencer Dossett from Borrowell's coming in. He's going to talk about the difference between faith and trust with AI vendors and different options that there are out in the market. And then we want to make this day more of a group discussion. So if you're doing AI and anything speaks to it, raise your hand. Let's have a talk about it. And we're going to try and make that a little bit more interactive with everybody as well. I think there's a lot of information about AI. Everyone's kind of doing something different, and it's very big everywhere in the market right now. So it's good to have that group discussion and different points of view from different organizations. We're going to play some games, and we have some giveaways. I'll let Brett and KJ talk about that when we get to them. Next slide. So today, you obviously know we're at the CDW office here on Toronto Street. So I'd like to do a big thank you to CDW, Brett and KJ, and our hosts for having us at their office and providing all the food today. That's awesome. Next slide. So code of conduct is pretty simple. Everything's on our website, on the Mac Foundation site. We just want to be respectful of each other. No calling names or doing anything stupid like that, or calling me stupid or anything like that.
Can I call you a PC guy?
No, you can't call me a PC guy, and hopefully no one in here is a PC guy. So yeah, just keep it real and let's keep it friendly.
Next one.
Yep. So we always put this in here, a little plug. If anyone knows anybody who's hiring currently, raise your hand if you want to speak now. Who's hiring? Brett's hiring?
Yeah, we are. So thanks for coming, everybody, first of all. Appreciate you all taking time out of your busy schedule. We wanted to have a little bit of fun tonight and do a bit of a different twist. So we do have Kat from our marketing team here. She disappeared, but please give her a big thank you before you leave tonight, because she put everything together for us, ordered the food, swag, came up with ideas for games. We'll do that. And this was just, through connection with this group prior, requests came forward last minute, right? That the previous venue fell through. And so we said, hey, let's do that. And it fits perfect because as we are building out our modern workspace program, Mac is such a core piece of that puzzle. And as we're building out capabilities there, I'm actually hiring Mac admins for my team. So if you know anybody who's looking, we're going to be looking for up to 2 senior resources that'll help us within that area of the business. Don't want to go into too much detail here, but take a look at our website too. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, more than happy to do that with you. But again, the reason why we're hosting the Mac admin event here is because we want to be a part of this community going forward. Want to be able to have those conversations with you, learn and understand what's happening, new developments, new experiences, the way how that platform is managed. I think today was actually a pretty big announcement. Maybe we'll talk about that later a little bit. But we're in it. We're here to stay, and we're building out some major capabilities. Starts with the right skill set. So yes, we are looking for some people. So if you happen to know folks that are in a position right now that are maybe out of work or they're looking for a change, please get them in touch with me through LinkedIn. Just send me a quick DM, and then happy to have a conversation. Or just tell them to go to the CDW website, cdw.ca, and we'll have some job postings there. So yes, we are hiring. Just wanted to throw that out there today.
Anyone else have any news on anybody hiring? Nope. Okay, next.
Hold on just 1 second. For the people at home, camera's doing weird things, and this mic sucks as well. We're gonna let it go, and it might work, it might not. So if you're at home and streaming, I'm sorry. And you said next slide, right?
Next slide, yeah. So logos. Adam, do you want to talk on the mic about logos? We've been talking.
I'll come next to you, and I'll lean towards you. Thanks. Ooh, shocking. Yeah, we want to have a logo. Like, we've got that one over there. That was just made by Nathan, I think, in like 5 minutes. And we want to have something better that reflects Toronto and does all that stuff. I have no skills towards that. I was going to use Burke at work to get a logo designer to do it, but it was more than my perk, and I didn't want to spend a few $100s on it. So if you know someone who's good at design and has free time and is willing to donate their time towards that, let us know. We would love to have something better that reflects us as Toronto Mac admins.
Perfect.
Does each city usually have a unique logo? Is that?
Yeah, and then we can make stickers, and we can give them to people.
Nice.
Yeah, right now, a lot of us are using just the command symbol. All I did is that the Toronto official blue colors.
Cool. Awesome.
In the theme of tonight, we should use AI and generate.
Not a bad idea.
Okay, so now we're going to get into our first sort of discussion.
I'm going to talk without the microphone. I don't need it. I'll do without. So,
I think
KJ,
we're
if you
doing
want
it for it's recording with the mic too. So
Yeah.
Test. See how loud it goes. You see?
It won't be that loud if it's clipped onto your shirt.
Yeah.
All right.
How's that? You guys can hear me okay? Awesome. So how's everyone doing? Long day at the office? Yeah? Where we're all coming in from? All downtown? GTA?
Downtown, folks?
Who's representing from downtown?
Out of town?
Okay. Anybody their first Mac Admin meetup tonight?
Yes.
Sorry, sir, where are you from? Okay. So raise your hands again first. Awesome. You guys want to go ahead and introduce yourself quickly? Company, where you're from? No?
I work at RBC. I work with ServiceNow.
Okay, awesome. And you guys have Macs?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Some users with Macs. There's an office with Macs.
Approximate size?
Yeah, but I worked at Salesforce before as a consultant. All Mac
Nice.
environment.
Okay, great. And did you work on Mac there?
Yeah, I do have a Mac too. Salesforce is all Mac.
Okay, great. And what was that experience like?
Really nice. It's really nice. I really like my experience.
Awesome. Intel-based Macs, or were they the newer Macs?
Salesforce, I went there from 2018 to 2017 or 2019.
Yeah.
It was like mostly the newer models. I don't know.
So the A-series chips, right?
Yes. Then we used Jamf to push software and everything.
You use Jamf as your MDM? Okay. Good experience?
Good experience. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And what was that like when you onboarded new employees?
They have a different process to onboard new employees because there's like the tech bar. The employee can go to the tech bar to pick up the Mac. They have to log in.
Yeah.
But me, I was mostly in the mobility side. So you just get your iPad, you log in with your user ID, your Salesforce user ID, and then you register with DEP.
Okay, ABM now, right?
And
Apple
yeah,
Business
yeah.
Manager.
Yeah, it was like easy.
Excellent. Great example. Anybody else?
I'm trying to remember. But
It's okay.
Remember the steps.
Anybody else have similar experiences? Bad experiences? So you said you guys had newer Macs, right? So A-series chips. And did you notice a difference in performance between the two different platforms, Intel versus A-series chips?
I don't know. For Mac, it was easier to use our software that was TechForce, and certain people use markets, and they all have Macs.
Okay,
They only use Macs there.
great.
Very few people will have a PC, but sometimes they run Linux for this stuff. Yeah.
Excellent. And so when you're using Macs or just anything at your current employer, did the topic of AI ever come up, or any good use cases that involved AI that you can speak to without going into too much detail?
Salesforce, they had Einstein back then.
Okay.
That's 2019. That was well back there. They had Einstein. There's a little AI thing they had.
Yes.
They were helping customers with it too.
Very cool. Very cool. So, and that solution was pretty much you had to be connected to the internet, right?
Yes.
In order for that AI to work.
I don't think so. It all depends. Because it was like the early stage.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what we've seen, and you can talk to this a little bit, right, KJ, is that, a lot of the AI solutions, first of all, AI is a big hype. We know this, right? The hype is real, but, sometimes what we call AI may not truly be AI. But a lot of the AI technologies that we see today are really cloud-based technologies. Would you guys agree with that? Everything is connected back to the cloud. So, when you're talking about AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure, all of those technologies are really where you have to have a cloud subscription. And what we're seeing now is there's a new trend emerging, which is really where there's on-chip AI technology about to happen. So has anybody here heard the term AI PC? Raise your hands.
Say it again.
AI PC?
Oh,
And does anybody actually even know what AI PC means? KJ, do you happen to know?
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing is the specialized chips in the Apple line. It's the MacBook Pro chips, and what it is it's being able to load inferencing models and operate effectively with some type of neural processing unit.
So that's the key, what I was listening for, right? So you've heard the term neural processing unit, or you may have heard NPU for short abbreviation, right? So the A-series chips, and again, we're not employed by Apple here, we work for CDW, but this is a Mac Admin event. So the A-series chips from, I think, was it 2017, 2018, around there? 2017, had a neural processor baked into their process at the time, and that continues to this day. But what we're now seeing is that the uptake generally within the industry is now we're seeing processors from other vendors come forward where they have an NPU built in. But what we're seeing with that now, and as KJ alluded to, maybe you can go a bit deeper into that because you've done a lot of AI talk across the country, right? Is we're seeing that now shifting slowly, right, with capabilities.
Yeah, well, we're seeing a couple of things, and obviously not everything is focused specifically on Mac, but the big advantage to the NPUs that we're seeing is being able to perform. So obviously you want to be able to do inferencing effectively, but also at lower battery consumption. Because you want to be able to take that on the road if you're in a desktop form factor. All that energy is heat. It's the work that has to be done there. And then from a laptop perspective, what I'm finding is I've got a local language model on my laptop. You want to be able to do that offline without completely draining your battery in 5 minutes. And so you can run that on a GPU, but having an NPU is more efficient. And it's good, you get better battery life out of it. Right?
I think you said something that's really key is that the processing was done locally on your machine. Mm-hmm. And so one of the biggest things that we hear all the time is around embracing AI, the cloud. Ask yourself what happens to your information, what happens to your data. Anybody want to comment on that?
backpack. Eat it all up.
Okay, sure. It's a good analogy.
It's all training. Yeah, it's used for training.
It's used for training, but what happens with your data all of a sudden? It is now exposed to another data processor. Somebody else now has access to your data in some shape or form. Again, it's not malicious, but somebody else has access to your data. And so now when you work in different fields, banking, healthcare, where you really are regulated by different sets of standards, you now have to pay very close attention to how your data is being used and processed. And so this is where we're seeing a bit of a change around this because it's been such a concern. Processing power was obviously a bit of a challenge with the capabilities. We're seeing now that the chip technology is catching up. The next wave is where a lot more processing, a lot more privacy, different ways of tapping into that power will be done on chip. And so the biggest thing that we see with clients when we talk about embracing AI, Copilot, for example, it's all about security, privacy, and how your data is being handled. I don't know if you maybe want to comment more on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the on-device AI definitely has some advantages. I think, you know, data privacy and a lot of what we think about is sort of the residency, like where are you housing that data, how are you protecting that data, and it's not just that you're putting the data into the cloud potentially. It's that it also has to traverse that wire. So there's the egress, there's the ingress. It's in flight, it's in motion. And I heard a really interesting concept earlier today, and it was there's certain things you own and there's certain things you don't own, and yet your network spans all of that. And so when you're operating and you're sending potentially sensitive information because you want to use AI to do some of your fundamental tasks in your day-to-day. Even when you're sending it across the wire, there's risk there, right? Which I think is relevant to this team here because I think the way Apple's approaching AI is a bit different, right?
Yeah, and I think as you embrace AI, have you come across challenges within your organization today that have caused a bit of a headache? Anybody have anything to comment on there?
It's blocked.
It's blocked?
Pilot is blocked. I think end of the organization culture, one house framework sometimes they will allow it, sometimes they will block it. So sometimes users will try to do searches regarding certain private stuff that they discuss at work. For example, they will try to look it up on Copilot, for example, ChatGPT. But now I see that is blocked at where I work now. So I don't have access to any.
And why is it blocked? Let's ask that question.
For security reason.
What's the concern?
I work at the bank, so we
Right.
deal with a lot of.
Because you could potentially use company information to solve a problem. And
Yeah.
it
sits in the
an
cloud,
unauthorized
not
cloud, right?
yeah, and someone can hack it and get the information and use that against you.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the challenge with that, though, and this is what we're starting to see, is there's an interesting challenge when you think about like shadow IT. So we've all kind of dealt with shadow IT. AI has the potential to be like the biggest contributor to shadow IT ever, because I can go download LM Studio, I can download Llama 3, and I can execute locally on my machine, completely independent from IT knowing what we're doing, right? So and that's a big thing. I guess one question I have, does anybody have like a single concise definition for AI? Like, can anybody define it with like one thing? And perhaps great, I'd love to hear it because I find in my conversations, AI, when people say AI today, it's kind of like when people talk cloud like 5 or 6 years ago, they say, oh, we're going to the cloud. Well, are we building a cloud operating model? Are we doing private cloud? Are we doing public? Like, what are we doing, right? So with AI, a lot of what I'm having conversations with initially is which AI are we talking about? And how do we divide it up so we can actually have those conversations? And so, when I meet with customers, I say, well, are we talking about AI for the individual? Are we talking about AI devices, Copilot, Firefly? Are we talking about AI for the team? Are we talking about creating like a RAG that helps us write contract information or helps us analyze legal documents? Are we talking about AI for our organization? Or are we talking about AI we're going to put in front of our customers? Right? And then, or all of them, right? But by breaking it up into different groups, now we can start to address the types of technologies that drive value for each. So for the individual, AI-ready devices, tools that are powered by AI that are going to make us be more productive. One of the interesting things I heard, James Scott, he's with Dell, don't shoot me, but he had a really good idea. And he said, we talk about doing like POCs, we talk about doing like POVs and proof of value. He says AI, we want to measure proof of productivity. So when I deploy an AI tool, did I save each person on a team an hour a week? That's the measurement, is how do we impact their overall productivity, right? AI for the team, we're having a lot of conversations around RAG. RAG you can do in the cloud, you can do local. RAG is retrieval augmented generation. And what that means is I'm going to take a foundation model. I just completely hijacked this whole thing.
I love it. Keep going. Keep going. You're on a
And
roll.
I love that, like, any questions you guys have, but RAG is really like retrieval augmented generation. And what's really interesting with RAG is I'm going to take a foundation model. Maybe it's a cloud available foundation model like OpenAI. Maybe it's something I downloaded like Llama 3. And I'm going to create a subset of data that has access to, and then I'm going to run AI and generate answers and summarize data out of that. So what I can do is I can take a bunch of PDFs and I can create a vector database, and then I can interrogate that vector database. Or I've actually got a demo, if you guys want to see it later, I can show it, where we're redirecting to cdw.com or cdw.ca, and you can just ask it questions about us. And anything that's available on that publicly accessible website now becomes available through the RAG model, but it's restricted to just that content. So there's different ways to sort of deal with this. What's interesting with Apple is the concept of AI at the edge, AI on the device, because now I don't have to send it to the cloud, I don't have to process it someplace else. I'm doing it on device, and they're giving me the tools to be able to do that. So I think that's what's really interesting. Sorry, question?
Yeah, I was going to go back to your comment about productivity.
Yeah.
I mean, showing the productivity of the tool.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other part of that question is the productivity for the tool. Did it save the man hours and whatnot versus the cost of that AI tool? Because it doesn't really matter if it saves you an hour of labor if it costs you 12 people's, salaries and everything as well, right?
And I think that's what's really interesting is when you start looking at the cost modeling in the cloud. We're talking sort of foundationally. I mean, each of us is trying to do innovation within our organization. They start to add up quickly. Like if I create you a tool and it saves you a little bit of time and it costs us, like I built a RAG model in Azure. It was $100 to build it, $15 a day to run it. So I do that for you, and I solve the problem for you and your team, great. But then I do it for you, that's another $15 a day to run that. And I do it for you, there's another 15, I do it for you, no, not you, Antonella. I do it for, and my costs just keep stair-stepping up, which again becomes a conversation of, well, when does that pipeline of development mean I need to start looking on premises, I need to start looking at doing things locally, or at the edge, and there's other things that can drive that too, right?
I'll add to another part of that question. For me, for AI, I find there's a spot where great operations, you can use AI maybe to do some processes or help with that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it gets to a customer side, like I'll use like Rogers or Bell call centers, like when you get to that chatbot, and that's like inherently kind of an AI thing, right?
Yeah,
It
but
can
there's,
be.
there's differences there because a lot of them are dialogue flow based,
Yeah.
and some are true based on natural language processing.
Yeah.
Right? But I want to maybe peel it back just for a brief second, and before we do that, anybody else have any good examples? David, anything you want to call out? Yeah. I'll bring you the microphone.
Well, I could just kind of talk about the AI challenges in my company. So I work at a crypto startup. So we're all about the latest and the greatest and all the shiny new tools. So we're like really big on AI tools. So the problem with that we've been facing is that most of the SaaS tools are now moving to incorporating their own AI-based features, right? So what you already have is becoming like, it's already becoming an AI tool. So as a policy person, we always run into it's like what's acceptable. So one thing that we had to do was to come up with the acceptable use policy. And that's a bit tricky because, what's the consensus of like, okay, these are the things that you can do, these are the things that you shouldn't do, right? And so the simplest way that we've kind of come up with letting everyone know is that if you think there is a sensitive data, it could be like PII, right? Personal identifiable information to like proprietary data. If those things are sort of going over there to engage with these tools, then there's already a risk. We already just assume that they're going to be exposed, right? Even though OpenAI says, hey, we're not going to be using it for training models, it's not going to spill over to like, whatever. We just assume that once it's going over there, it's going to be exposed, right? And so that's the assumption that you have to make when you're sort of formulating a policy. So once you have a policy formulated, then you have to make sure that when your security people are doing some assessments, they need to understand what are the risks, right? And when you go through all that risk assessment and then you start to deploy and you socialize the idea of like, hey, you can use Google Gemini for doing these things, but please don't do that other thing that could put company at risk, right? So it is a kind of a slippery slope, and so all in all, what we've started to do is the data is really important, and we need to keep our data in-house, right? So we have kind of a data model where the data themselves are, we keep the data. The data schema we use, right? So if we're using something like an AI tool for prompting, we actually incorporate the schema, data schema. And so if, let's say, if you have a business intelligence tool, you would incorporate something like a data schema so that you're only getting the queries, and then that could be run in-house. So there's kind of like similar kind of approach that you can do. But overall, I think, like you guys know that all the SaaS tools, they're going to have their own version of AI features. And that's the assumption that we just have to make. We need to like get ahead of it. And maybe the best way for me, in my personal experience, is to have the right kind of acceptable use policy and to begin that idea.
Great, thanks for sharing that. Did you want to go too?
Sure. A lot of similar stuff to what David's got going on. At our company, we've got a policy panel who basically have been looking at every AI tool someone's asked for, and it's legal, security, IT, all looking at that, whether or not it was good. And one of the things we're right now doing is trying to make sure that we're not overspending on AI, because everyone wants this brand new shiny tool, and sometimes these new tools don't actually do anything good. Like Google Gemini is really expensive, and it helps you write docs. So it hasn't really been that helpful. Whereas there are other tools that we've used, like our help desk system is Jira, and it has its own AI system that is really good. And so that has added so much, that's answered so many tickets without human interaction that it's proven its worth already. So it's the cost analysis there.
Awesome, excellent. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think what's interesting with AI that you mentioned around like just assuming the data is going to get leaked, that's kind of what our cybersecurity team says about everything. Just assume it's all going to be hacked at some point. And it's terrible, but it's kind of being proven true. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And again, I think that comes back to what do you do with your data? How do you fence it? How do you protect it? And what's really interesting is I didn't put any slides, but actually have a talk around like hierarchy of needs when it comes to AI. Like, what do you really need for AI? But wrapped around AI, to your point, is all the governance, and people haven't even really considered it, but when you're spending the time to develop the intellectual property of an AI model, that becomes important for the organization, right? If that were to leak, it's just like, Rockstar having their video game leaked, right? Like it's intellectual property that you don't necessarily want out there in the wild. And so, yeah, I think the governance and security concerns and all of that. But I think what long-term that's going to drive us to is we're going to have AI that's in tools. That's a great use case. Our tools are just going to be better because of AI. If you talk to ServiceNow, ServiceNow is talking about taking their whole report writing function and just making it prompting. So right now, if you have to change a report in ServiceNow, I got to find the report writer. It's a very fragile operation that takes a lot of work. They're going to be changing that in a future edition to just be prompting. So when the CEO wants to know some information, they're going to be able to directly prompt. Now they're still probably going to have somebody else do it for them, but they're going to directly be able to prompt that. And when it's not quite what they want, they're going to be able to change the prompt to get what they want, rather than have somebody write a new report, right? So, so that's interesting. But one of the big, again, this is like an interesting concept. There's a bunch of interesting things, obviously, with AI. But AI is probabilistic, it's not deterministic. AI is not going to give you the answer. It's going to project something with a pretty high degree of success on what it thinks it's supposed to tell you. And that's very different. What's interesting is when you look at something like the help, the help menu example. That's a very fragile system. It takes a lot of work to upkeep that, to change it. If you ever work for an organization that has one of those, and trying to get a change in there is a disaster, because it's a special program. Somebody's got to get it. They've got to do a bunch of work to do it, right? The difference between that fragile menu that's hard to maintain and a chatbot that can just understand what it's being asked for and 95% of the time get you to where you want to go, that's a better experience for customers a lot of times, right? What I'm finding really interesting is, and now we're way off the rails,
We're already way out there. It's okay.
As you're looking at AI, there's a couple of really interesting tools. Highly recommend looking at a tool called LM Studio. It'll run on your Mac. It'll allow you to download a language model. It'll tell you whether or not it'll run locally okay. So if you have a newer chipset that can offload the NPU or to the NPU, it'll tell you that, and it'll actually say, yeah, this model will run well on your machine. Not only can you run it locally and interrogate it as a chatbot, you can actually spin it up as a server service. So as you're trying to sort of get a feel for, well, how would I have other things interact with it? You can actually bring that language model up, and it'll give you the string. It'll tell you this is exactly how you send an API call to that. So you can actually experiment locally and have it be multifaceted. Another tool that's really interesting is one called LangChain. And what LangChain allows you to do is chain language functions together. And it's really interesting how powerful something can become with just a couple of links added to the chain. So we're talking about sort of foundationally from an AI perspective. Those are two tools that are really, really interesting. And the two use cases I use to sort of explain LangChain is one we have a demo for. And what it is I've got a RAG model that searches the CDW website for answers. But what I put in front of it is I put a voice-to-text interpreter with a digital assistant. And at the end of it, I've added a text-to-voice and a response. So what it is a digital assistant. You talk to her. She goes and interrogates the RAG model, gets the answer to your question, and then displays the text and then speaks it to you. Now, what's really interesting with tools like LangChain is at every point when you have different capabilities you can add to that, it's applicable all the way through. So what I mean by that is the digital assistant also speaks French, English, Mandarin, and because she does that, my data set is almost entirely English, but she can answer the question in French or Spanish or English or Mandarin. And so there's some real power when you start to chain these together. And the other example I use, just because I think it's one of those things I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. As we get into AI and we start doing AI locally, one of the things that's saying is like, well, I might have to teach everybody to be a prompt engineer. Is that the next thing? Is I have to teach them how to do prompting really well? Well, what if I have a 2-link chain? And the first link takes the, Phyllis on the front desk who's 75 years old and types in her prompt and not very good prompt engineer. What if the first link in the chain takes Phyllis's request and transforms it into a good prompt and then submits that to my foundation model to get the answer? And even that sort of 2-link chain, all of a sudden we're like, oh, I've got an interesting way to take and make everybody a pretty good prompt engineer. They're not going to be perfect, but 90% of the time.
Are they both local?
So you could do it, yeah, absolutely. So the demos I have are built in Azure. So don't hiss. No garlic needed. No, but we're also looking at reproducing those in AWS. So the demos I've been building have been Azure. If you want to ping me, I'm happy to share Git repos and things like that we've been using. So, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. So I was gonna just say, if you were to pick sort of, I don't know, 5 or 6 top things to consider when looking at AI, what are those things that you would say? And it doesn't have to be limited to 6.
So,
7 or 8.
Can I actually answer that one?
Yeah, go for it.
What's the number one thing before you do anything with AI that you should ask yourself? Put out some answers.
Do I need it?
Do I need it?
Is it worth the effort?
Is it worth the effort? What else?
In the back.
What am I trying to do?
Thank you. That is the one thing I was looking for tonight. What is the problem you're trying to solve? Should be your number one question you should ask yourself. The shiny object is great. Somebody said that tonight. I don't know if it was you, but somebody said that tonight. The shiny object is amazing. But we have to think about all the investments. I think somebody said there's pretty much a co-pilot in every system now, right? Every tool has its own AI. So think about the investment a company has to make. Think about all the work that has to go into policy setting, and really about figuring out what happens with my data. Security says no to everything, right? Security guys, goddammit. And then, somebody else now comes along constantly with these new tool sets. Listen, us as technology geeks, I think we get fascinated with what you can do with the technology. But ultimately what it comes down to is, what are you trying to solve? And the tool sets you already have, can they not solve your problem that you already have today? And then the next big thing, once you have that, is, okay, here's my problem I'm trying to solve. You found a tool, what's the next question? And again, we're taking things into consideration already around security, policy, privacy. Those are already in there. But what else should you be asking yourself as you try to introduce another AI platform into your ecosystem? Anybody? ROI. What are the efficiencies I'm going to gain back? What I do want to do is I want to cap it off here, and then we'll hand it off to the next person. But thank you for doing this. You're amazing.
I got one more thing for AI for you guys.
Okay.
So this is actually for everybody. So we all know, we have our Apple friends here. We all know that AI is a big topic for coming for iOS come June, but nobody knows what it's really going to be there. So let's throw some ideas on the board of what you think is going to be in AI on iOS, and what would you like to have?
We'll get there in a second. I just want to finish off, and then I'll hand it off to you for the finishing off the segment. So let me give you one example of what we just talked about. So, and this relates back to what we're doing in our business. And so we are building out our service desk business. You've been part of this. You know this, right? And I've got a team in the other room. Look, they're still working in the back there. Good manager.
They get you thinking their work.
Yeah, exactly. They're probably paying Pac-Man. But we're building out a service desk team right now. And we actually have our first customers lined up. So what would you think is my number one goal as a service desk provider? The more tickets, the better, right? The more people I can hire, the more I can build a customer. Right? Do you agree? But what if we'll get to that part. But what if I told you we're actually not going to solve that problem that way? So what we're actually doing is, we're working with KJ and the larger team where we're introducing conversational AI to a customer to say, here's how we're going to do the business differently and solve your problems differently. But it's not about us now going in and selling more people. We can do that all day, every day. Everybody can do that. And it's not about the technology itself, but we're using the technology to solve the problem differently. And what's key as we provide our service to our customer is the ROI. By leveraging this technology, these are the problems we're going to solve, and these are the efficiencies we're going to gain, hence why we're using that technology. So I'm just going to finish it off there for tonight.
And for your exercise you're doing, which I like, in June, Brandon is getting me an Apple resource for our podcast. We're going to be going through an interview process and talking about data privacy and Apple's approach to AI on device. And so that'll probably be our July podcast episode. So if there's anything that comes out of this that you want to know, I can include questions on our discussion as well.
We can do a snapshot of the board and send it to you.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I've asked KJ like 10 times if I could be in his podcast, and the answer is usually the same. No.
So I'll open up to the floor.
It'll happen.
What do you guys think is going to be in the AI component of iOS? Or what would you like to be in the AI component of iOS?
I like Siri to be smart. I can do it. Come on.
Smarter Siri. Anybody else?
I would like a calculator for the iPad.
A what?
I'm still holding on. Please let me know.
Better cal. Have you guys seen the new thing with calculator? Apparently, if you do 50 plus 50 times 2, it doesn't go to 200, it goes to 150. It's a new bug in the iOS calculator. Anybody else?
Maybe we can select which AI tool, like a browser, like OpenAI or
Yeah.
Google or whatever.
Choose AI tool for default. Okay. Anybody else?
I like that one, but I think they're going to call it a privacy proxy in front of that tool. Data is somehow protected from the ChatGPT.
I assume it goes using their own. Like, why would they go through a third party on that?
I think that's our knowledge that they're doing a deal with ChatGPT.
Oh, is that it? Okay, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Sorry, keep going, Chris.
Yeah, just that's my thought. Privacy proxy.
Privacy proxy.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll add one. So for me, I find photos and the fact that it recognizes all the people in your album and categorizes it, that's a little bit of an AI thing. So what else do you guys think on the current apps or anything that would be nice to have a little bit more AI on?
Maybe an emotional intelligence component?
Emotional intelligence?
Yeah, something to do with those that are, dealing with depression or whatever.
Okay, I get it.
Better prompting in journals like that with that kind of stuff.
The journal.
Well, related to that, I'm just thinking that that's how one of the ways it could implement is prompts in journals. It's easier to press, but it asks you to talk about it.
Cool.
Summarize message threads that go to him.
Summarize. Sorry, my writing is horrible.
Now I can't remember what I was saying.
It's terrorizing.
I'd like you to explain to me how I'm screwing up my photos.
It's not screwing up. It's organizing your photos by people.
No. What I mean is when I take the photo, it sucks. And I know that he's compensating. I wanted to explain it to
Explain why the photo sucks.
explain why I suck at taking photos.
Oh.
Like, it goes,
Better autocorrect.
Yeah, but I mean for the camera, like I was going to mention that. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Like also fix the frame, the picture, whatever. You do that normally.
So this year, I think, or last year, Google Photos did a whole, in their Google camera, did a whole pile of stuff with just that on their platform. I don't know if you guys saw the video where they could take a picture of someone doing a slam dunk, take the person jumping, and then move them up like 10 feet, and then now it's not a real photo, it's an AI generated photo.
Maybe they will improve existing tools, but like repurpose them. For example, there's a reader mode, right, in Safari. Maybe they will like a smart reader mode that allows you to like summarize or do something like that. But well,
AI-based accessibility features, like just literally just talks to you all day. Like if you're a blind person, you have your basically phone basically talking to you about what's happening and that sort of thing.
Better accessibility.
Yeah, like AI-driven accessibility features. That would be cool.
You got like descriptive audio?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Like anything that helps with accessibility, but like it's intelligent, right? We're talking about like iOS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you basically like run a model within your device, and then all of the I guess the sensory like the camera,
similar to like the Rabbit R1. Siri, order me whatever from Uber Eats, and have it actually go and execute that without me having to do anything else, right? So the idea is being able to have AI interpret and then interact with your
action model versus language learning.
Exactly, right?
And integration in the background as opposed to the app on your phone.
Exactly.
Okay, so some.
Not like Rabbit, where like it basically like just sends an API call, right? So it's a very glorified like mobile device, right? But like actual like models being run in the device itself, and the data that's being processed is just all the data that in the device, right? So photo, text, whatever the case may be.
High level, what would this be called?
So I would say the like an active agent or an active assistant where, you know, like Siri 2.0.
Yeah, like multi-modal accessibility AI agent, right?
So more in the background, non-app related.
Could you technically expand on that? Maybe use an Apple Vision Pro as like
What about the battery?
What about the battery?
Like something that would make you save more battery power waste time automatically, so you don't have to go on your phone and choose
So
options.
better battery management?
Yes. I know it's there already, but it's not that advanced.
Alan has a really amazing. So it's like facial recognition AI. So it's like you know you're squinting.
Yeah.
Right?
So based on like what the learnings they have for Vision Pro, and like you know how they track your eyes and stuff like that. So the AI is built into a sensor. So like specifically for like boomers who like squint and they can't read the text, it will automatically
Make it bigger?
Make it bigger for them.
So,
Depending on like how they like the accessibility is.
so what would that be called? A vision accessibility?
Boomer vision.
Boomer Vision.
Boomer?
Boomer vision.
I see so many people in my family going like this all the time, and they don't know how to do it. If they could make that for them, like boom, like immediately they'll buy it.
What was the Google feature where you can scan and it shows you stuff about
The image?
a lens? Like the feature of the Google phones, like when you scan something, it shows what it is. Yeah, lens.
Yeah, Google Lens.
Yeah. But maybe it will be expanded to like we can make screenshots, right? With iPhones. But instead of like screenshots, we just kind of select whatever on the screen and it shows us.
What it is? As opposed to taking a picture and having it do it like that? Yeah, so what would that be from, what would you call that? Camera,
AI screenshots.
I know what you mean. So Google Lens integration or something like that. But not Google Lens. Google Lens-ish.
Google Lens, you just take a picture with the camera.
Yeah.
But with this, it's just selecting what's on the screen, whatever you want.
Yeah. It'd be nice to do this, open up your camera and put that and have it show up what it is, as opposed to going into another app.
so like a digital assistant.
Yeah, like a display like model basically. Display AI model essentially.
So,
They start to do that with AI, right? Where you take a picture, it describes everything that's in the picture.
Yeah, but I'm talking about not taking a picture, just seeing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like,
So-
almost like scanning that QR code where it's like, you tap it and it tells you what type of flower, what type of.
So I-
Or like a vision AI.
I called that camera identified AI. Whatever.
It's basically like a vision of like whatever the screen is being shown. It actually like sees it like you're seeing it and then gives you a feedback.
Kind of cool. It's neat. Anything else? These are all like really cool things. It'd be interesting to see what we're actually going to get in June.
Similar to Google Lens, like live translations would be either through Siri with voice or just, reading text and live translations on device with
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
But I can also see, I think Siri's going to be able to help edit photos at some point.
Cool. That's a fun little game anyways. I just thought I'd add that in since we're talking about AI stuff. Yeah, so our next speaker is here, but I think what we're going to do is take a little bit of a break, have a bathroom break, some drinks, there's some donuts, some more food, whatever. And I think we have some games. We also have CDW has a raffle. Does everyone have a raffle ticket? Anybody missing a raffle ticket? Okay, good. Everyone's got a raffle ticket. So our host, Kat, is disappeared. Anyone know where Kat is?
Oh, sorry, what do we, the raffle tickets?
Yeah, and the games that she wanted to play.
Oh yeah, she was just mentioning if we do some game competitions, if you guys jump on the Jenga and somebody wins, let her know. We'll give you another ticket. We'll play a game of ping pong after we're done. Somebody wins.
Yeah.
We'll give you a ticket. But yeah, there's a giveaway for that.
So I think there's one, potentially two giveaways, potentially, and they're giving away a set of AirPods. AirPods.
Oh, now the ping pong champion.
Yeah.
I think for the sake of time, maybe we'll just stick with the single raffle. I think is that sure? Because do we have a time to get out of here? Actually, we usually have a time to get out of here. So
That's a Brett question.
Brett, do we have a time we have to be out of here tonight?
we'd like to be out of here by 9.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But either way, like the whole thing is we just want to facilitate having a good interaction with everybody. So no pressure.
So we can either do the raffles at the end or pause for a bit and let everyone take a breather and stretch their legs and then continue.
Yeah, you guys do some games, you have some fun, right? I mean, you guys work all day long, right? So let's have some fun and detox a little bit. Just know that.
David?
Nobody's here with the 8, 9 o'clock. You gotta get out of here, right? It's around 9 o'clock. Slowly wrap it up a little bit. You can pray a little longer. Whichever you do. So I think we'll just play the games. I don't know if we want to. We'll just have everybody's get one raffle ticket. And then if you want to play a little bit of ping pong and afterwards, like we can probably be able to see if we can find that. But what we want to do is we probably just want to get something. We'll take 10-minute break, and then we'll have a next speaker, and then wrap up the events, and afterwards, whoever wants to stick around, play the games, we'll do that. Yeah? Okay.
Okay, so break for 10 minutes. And then we'll do the raffle to start. Is this off?
No, it's okay. Just keep. Check. Oh.
Can I please get everybody back to the lunchroom? Whoever's last at their seat has to buy drinks for everybody tonight. Let's bring it in, everyone. If everybody gets back in 5 minutes, Jamf said they will sponsor all licensing for the next year. He's not even listening. It's okay. The mini donuts were like deadly, especially the cinnamon.
Well, these are better. These are better.
I'm going to introduce you.
Oh, sure.
I'll start it, yeah. And she just went to get the clicker for you. Okay, you guys all ready? I got one woohoo. Okay, guys. Hope everyone got some food. Hope everyone played some games. If you won any games, I hope you gave them to our marketing girl, Kat, so she can give you another raffle ticket for our prize. We're going to start the second half and more AI discussion. Today we're going to be talking with Spencer Dossett from Borrowell. Does everyone know what Borrowell is? No? He'll introduce Borrowell in a bit as well. Before we get into the next presentation, though, where's KJ? No problem.
Just a quick note, I apologize for being back here. Our CDW Business Technology Expo is next week on Tuesday, and if you're interested, it's lots of fun. There's a lot of events, a lot of giveaways, a lot of swag. There's also Apple's a big sponsor. There's a bunch of stuff. I'll be doing a talk about AI-ready organizations. There's a bunch of other conferences we have. Thank you. I just want to mention that. Where's that?
So for those on the line, CDW is hosting the next BTEX event at the Rebel nightclub next week. Lots of vendors, lots of prizes, lots of presentations. They just wanted to make sure everyone was aware, and go to the website and register for that, and we'll try to put up the website at the end of the thing today. So for now, I'm going to hand it over to Spencer.
Awesome. Thank you. Everyone hear me? Awesome. David, can you see the screen through the camera? Cool. So my name's Spencer. I run IT and security at Burwell. Burwell is we provide free credit scores to Canadians. So if you've ever tried to go to Equifax to get your credit score, then you know how much of a pain that is, and they constantly will try to get you to sign up for this. Yep. Cool. They do have a path for you to get your credit score, but it takes a lot of doing. It's not a great process, and you get one for free. If you want more, you have to pay for that. So what we do is we pay for it, and we give it to you for free. So we have a deal with Equifax. We pay them in bulk. We get your credit score. It costs a lot of money to do this. And then what we do is we take that data,
We evaluate what are the best products for you. We surface products that would be a good fit, that you'd be likely to get approved for. We don't sell your data. If you choose to say, hey, I'd like to be referred to that product, you can choose to convert, to go forward and communicate with that company and give them your information and get that product. And if you do that, we get paid. That's 85% of what we do. So that's kind of initially what we were known for. Recently, we've hit the news a lot for we have a rent reporting product. So in doing this, we noticed that people who have a mortgage get credit and people who don't get credit. Not cool. So we set out to fix that. So now we offer a rent reporting product where you can get your rent reported, to try to balance things out a little bit. And then we also have a credit builder product. So if you have very, very bad credit or no credit, you can use this to kind of show a history of payments and build your payments. So that's kind of what Borrow does. We're very member-centric. We call our users members. And we listen to the financial industry, and then we kind of make our own decisions and kind of weight them as heavily as possible towards the best thing for the member. The goal is to try to make financial prosperity available for everyone. So it's a big, lofty goal. It's going to take some doing to get there. I joined Barwell about 2 years ago. My background originally was in accounting. About 10 years ago, I made a switch into tech. So I came from the accounting space, the financial space. I was kind of disillusioned at kind of some of the practices I saw. And so I thought, I got really excited about building stuff. And I quit cold turkey, went into a boot camp, learned to code Ruby on Rails, and then begged places to hire me. And then the place that, gave me a shot said, I have a PHP job for you. It's like, cool, I need to pay rent. That sounds good. So that was in e-commerce. That was right at the height of when things on the e-commerce side were exploding. From there, I went on to internally, I was a junior developer, and then internally I just kept asking questions, being super annoying. And so people thought, oh, he's learning. And they kept giving me more responsibility. A lot of people helped me out a lot along my journey. I ended up getting an internal role in system engineering, which kind of later morphed into an SRE team. And from there, I kind of eventually transitioned into more of an IT security role at different companies. So prior to Barwell, I was at Dialogue. I was helping them get to in a position where they could go public. So I was with them leading up to and through going public. After Dialogue, I kind of took a look around. I had some connections to Barwell, but I didn't really know a lot about them. And then when I met the team, I was like, okay, I can't say no to this team. They're great. So it's been a fantastic 2.5 years. I'm still connected with people at Dialogue. They're great. And still connected with the folks from my original first job. I've had nothing but help from everyone in the tech community as I've kind of been going through this career. So I feel very grateful to kind of be here today. So this talk, I got a lot of questions about AI over the past little more than a year. People kept asking me why I would say yes to certain things and why I would say no. It was a very challenging question to ask and very much more challenging to answer. Because your business teams, they want clear answers. They want, like, if it's green, you're good. If it's red, you're bad, right? But it's not that simple. So, this is kind of the synthesis of the journey that I've taken over the past 1.5 years or so as this AI craze has been going. I don't have all the answers. These are the answers I have. If you've already figured out this stuff, fantastic. Maybe I have stuff to learn from you. But evaluating vendors, and what I like to call this is kind of the difference between faith and trust. And we'll get into why in a second here. Is it on? No, it is not. There we go.
Is it clicked onto the browser?
Oh, excellent.
Advanced screen.
Okay.
Very advanced screen.
So, rewinding a bit, it's early 2023. AI is super hot. I just finished Oh, amazing. Yeah. Perfect. So, it's early 2023. I just finished my plan for 2023. I'm feeling good. AI is exploding. I'm like, this is cool. What do I do about it? You know, we're having presentations about the valuation of companies that have AI in them, and hearing all this stuff in the news, and the market share of AI is growing. And I go, oh crap, I'm getting asked about this. What do I tell people? Because they're going to want to know what we can do, and I don't know the answer. So, you know, that's kind of the situation I have. So immediately I take everything on my plate, I shove it off my desk. I say, oh, let's figure out this AI thing. And when I say AI, like in this case, we're talking about LLMs. AI has been around for a long time. A lot of the tools we use are AI. The other thing is, Barwell's an AI company. We don't talk about it, but when we get your credit score and then we use some analysis to figure out what are the best products to show you, that's machine learning. That's AI. It's just not sexy anymore because LLMs are sexy now. So LLMs are the new hotness. Old learning models, whatever. They're not as hot anymore, so it's all about LLMs now. So we're an AI company. We've been at the forefront of kind of figuring this out, but we just never talk about it that way. And what that means is that everyone else is doing this. We've already been doing this, so we're doing this. There's not really any choice here. I can't say like, whoa, like, let's stop being an AI company now. That's not really an option. So, you know, and this is kind of one of the, this is what makes being in security really interesting, but it also makes it really challenging, is the easiest way to tell people to be secure is just don't have any servers, don't have any computers, don't have any users, don't have any data. You're safe, right? But you don't have a business. So, you know, you got to be safe, but also have a business. This is the trade-off. What if it goes wrong? People were asking me this at the same time. So they're like, we're doing this, but also what if it goes wrong? I'm like, yeah. Oh, is that better? Cool. So LLMs have a lot of the same risks that other learning models do, right? So, you know, it's fundamentally a learning model. A lot of the risks are the same. We know what the risks for machine learning is. But they have a bunch of new ones we're still discovering. So there's like, you know, all these we have to worry about, and then the unknown, which is the more stressful version. And it's been all over the news, right? It's just like some of these problems are not even, they're not even large language model problems. They're just companies that were doing large language models, and then they did some classic blunders, and then they had problems. Some of it's just concerns about privacy. You know, some of it are actual breaches of, you know, data that was fed in wrong or whatnot. So this is happening at the same time. We get some help. OWASP comes out with a security guide. NIST comes out with a security guide. Privacy Commissioner comes out with a security guidance doc. That's great. They're very high level. They're like, here's things you should consider. Great. What do I do? None of them are really telling you practical, like, this is why yes, this is why no, here's the line. That's for you to figure out. And even if they were, Barwell's a very conservative company. We have 3 million members. That means 3 million people have chosen to trust us with their personal information. We have to be very conservative with what we choose to take on. And the more we grow, the more conservative we have to be. So we can't just do what, like if a startup comes up tomorrow and was like, oh, we're just doing it this way. That's cool. And we have to be very intentional and careful about how we deploy things. So, you know, I'm left with the question, what's the difference between a secure solution and an insecure solution? And this is going to sound obvious and boring to any of you who've evaluated vendors before. It's not rocket science, but for some reason, we treat AI differently. So, you know, fundamentally, after all the work of analyzing what's going on, of asking these vendors how things are built, of of trying to get answers out of every AI tool you've thought of. It just comes down to what are the controls in place around the risks that you can't recover from. And so when I'm talking about risks that you can't recover from, so let's say that you ask for directions, it gives you the wrong directions. That's annoying. Maybe you missed a meeting, maybe you arrived late to a thing. You can recover from that. You can give it credit, you can say, I'm sorry, you can, improve the model so it doesn't do that again. If you do something like accidentally share personal information, you're done. You can't unshare personal information. You're over. That is an example of kind of what I would call an unrecoverable risk. And then the way that I kind of frame, not just AI, but all my vendor evaluations is I start at no. So if I have no information, I have a company name, the answer is no, it won't pass security. And then the more information I get, I transition them to a yes. The reason I do that is because there is an innate nervousness about sharing information, especially about controls. And so if vendors think, or tools, providers think that by sharing the information you could go to a no, they won't share the information. So I kind of make clear up front that it's a no, and everything you say makes it possible to be a yes. And we do, we actually internally, I focus my team on being enablers to the business. We are not meant to be gatekeepers. We have to gatekeep as a function of what we do, but we're trying to help the business move forward. So that means that we're looking for ways to do a yes. We're looking for, okay, well, if you do it this way, if you don't allow this use case, but you allow your other 5 use cases, then we can get there. Examples of questions I ask. Some of these sound reductive. Some of these sound a bit mean, like, why should I use your service instead of just using ChatGPT? The reason I ask this question is because the answer typically involves explaining security controls. They get mad and they go, well, ours is different because, cool, explain it to me, because I don't know anything about this. I'm clearly an idiot. You need to explain to me why my assumption that this is just ChatGPT is wrong. I know that assumption is wrong. Sometimes they tell me that assumption isn't wrong, which is shocking. But when you get into how do you ensure accuracy in your responses, they'll tell you a lot about the training model. And by the way, what I'm talking about here is specifically you've got an external vendor trying to sell you a thing, the business wants to use it, it involves AI. These are a lot of the questions I ask. When you're dealing with an internal team, you can ask a lot of these same questions, but you should be a lot more involved in the synthesis of what you're designing, and you should assume that everyone else is going to ask you these questions. And the person that I have in my mind when I'm asking these questions is not whether my information is going to get hacked. I'm knowledgeable about computers and systems and personal information. I can figure my way around life. It's not about any of you. It's about your great-grandparent or your grandparent. Are you comfortable with putting their information in this system? Because that's who you're protecting. The person who we have to set these things up to protect doesn't know anything about technology. They never will. They won't learn it. They're done learning. This is not their whole thing. They don't want it to be their whole thing. They shouldn't have to. That's why we're here. So these are 2 vendors I actually evaluated. I scrubbed the names. This is a chat app you have used. You've definitely either have this vendor at your company today, or you've used this vendor in your interaction with a support thread or something recently. So we were looking at this chat tool in order to help us on the member support side. I mentioned we have 3 million members. Often they need support. Weird stuff happens when you have 3 million members. It's the best QA team you'll ever have because they will do everything. And so they run into weird stuff, and then you have to have humans help them. That's a lot of humans. So you get a lot of the same question. AI is a great use case if you can make it safe. So they were looking at a lot of AI tools to see if that would work. This vendor, when asked, about their controls environment for information that is in the chat, they said, here's how it works. We take the information that users put in the chat. These are our end users. We send it to ChatGPT. I laughed. I actually laughed. And I said, that's funny. Like, I love you guys. But also, there's no way you do that. You've got other controls. And they said, no, those are the controls. But don't worry, we asked them not to share the information. That's faith. That's not trust. That's faith. So you want me to believe your promise, which I'll take a promise over nothing. A promise is better than nothing. But that's not a control. I can't trust that. So we actually pushed back quite a bit on this. And finally they said, no, there's no more information. And I was like, and Stephen, who's great, he's on the member support side. I was like, I'm sorry, Stephen, they wasted your time, man. I don't know what to tell you. I actually expected better from them. So that's why I scrubbed their name. Example number 2, same story. You've definitely used this app too, or you have it at your company, or both. Another chat app. Same question. And what they said was, okay, so users put the information in the chat. We use some regex and some old school machine learning to filter out PII. That's a DLP service, which is data loss prevention or data leak prevention. So they put a DLP service in between. Then they say, by the way, we don't actually have the same model as we don't have the same model as ChatGPT. We have our own instance in Azure. Cool. And we also anonymize all the data we are going to use for training, and you can opt out. So the promise is in there too. We can do the same thing as the other app is doing, but there's a bunch of control stuff, and they also sent a diagram of their system and shared that. So there's a huge gap between those two things. I expected both of them to have similar answers, and I won't tell you the name of the first company, but if you hear the name of the first company, you'll be sad. I already gave them the feedback. I hope they take the feedback to their leadership. I left the door open to talk later. Things to keep in mind. Always do a security review. Always. People will try to tell you don't need one. You always need one. I don't care if you're selling cupcakes. You need a security review. If a tool that you already use that is really trustworthy, like chat app number 1, comes out with an AI tool, you need a security review. Because it doesn't mean they did a good job. You don't know. They could have rushed it. They could have drank the AI Kool-Aid and just tried to get to market. You have no idea. You always have to check. Offer to help your internal teams. It's really hard for an internal team to get all the way to a security review and then get told no. They put in a ton of work. They probably have reasons why they selected that vendor. They were hoping it would go through. It didn't. It's devastating. They've got real problems they're trying to solve. So this is a two-way conversation between your teams and the business teams. You want to make sure that they know that you're on their side. This is my favorite thing to kind of remind people about cybersecurity is it's about 10% cybersecurity and 90% psychology. It's all people all the way down. And then there's this weird trend of we don't do trials happening. I don't know where it came from. I'm sure AI is really expensive to use. I don't know why they do this. Always insist on trying before you buy. This is a really expensive tool that could significantly impact your security landscape. You need to try it before you commit to it, and you need to try it in a controlled environment. Another company, we'll call this a ticket solution system, had an AI tool that they came out with. Seemed pretty cool. Developers wanted to use it. I said, great. How do we test this in a limited fashion? They said, we can't. We have to turn it on for the entire space of everything. Oh, I guess we can't try it. Because there's no way to limit all the sensitive stuff we put in this ticketing system off on its own thing, and all the non-sensitive stuff, and, shove that in the AI stuff. So, and, I'm just going to preface, I'm not an expert in AI. But this is not, this isn't rocket science. It's up to the developers of that tool to sell you on how that's a good idea. If, like that earlier, this thing, my developers could do that in an afternoon. That's not... They did, actually. We had a hackathon. They did this. It was pretty cool. They learned some stuff. It was great. There's no money in that. I don't know why I should pay a vendor for that. This is worth doing. That's not an afternoon. That takes some doing. That's the gist of the talk. If you learned something from that, great. If you didn't, fantastic. It means you're already doing a good job. If you have feedback for how I should do it differently, I want to know. This is kind of an ever developing process. But it turns out, from my perspective, buying AI tools is just like buying any other tools. What are you trying to do? And is it a good idea? And is that tool going to make it worse or better? Are you going to be like, how are you going to, like, eventually everything is going to be broken. Something, like with the way the world is going, something's going to hack something. When that happens, you want to be able to point to your decisions and say, I still can't see how we could have made a better choice. That's the bar you're trying to meet. And if you can get that's good. So, yeah, that's the gist. Love to hear what experiences anyone else has had here.
Actually, I had a general question for you.
Yeah.
And maybe KJ back there. And it was one of your slides that you said, what happens if it all goes wrong?
Right.
So as we talk about AI these days, and like you said, everything's AI. Everybody wants the shiny AI tool. But then we look at, and maybe this is a little conspiracy theory, you look at all the movies that come out, Terminator, Matrix, where AI is taken over. Is there a fear in the AI experts like yourself and the companies like CDW or anybody who's doing AI, that your fear is that it gets too out of control? And I know we look at Terminator, maybe Matrix being a little bit more of the extreme, but if someone can think it, it's always been, if you can think it, someone will do it.
How do you know it's not already out of control?
That's the question. That's true.
Because, I mean, think about it. You're carrying your phone everywhere, right? You put all your information in a social media network, and that's just using an algorithm to track you and send you ads. I spoke to another unnamed vendor who shared with me they know everything about me and all the other people on the call and them and all the people at the company. And they've known that for about a decade or two. It's not AI. They had it already. A lot of this stuff, like AI is just the new flavor. We've been giving away our data for a long time. So the hard conversations that you end up having around what is the minimum amount of data you really need to do this service? Like, who really needs access to this? What partners really need access to this? I got a question one time about sharing bankruptcy info with some party. And I said, did we tell someone that this is what they signed up for? And the answer I got was no. So I said, so we're not doing it. Like, we don't need to share that information. What they're asking is, did any of the people you sent our way go bankrupt recently? And the answer is, you filter those people out because you know they're just going to tell them no anyways. So the answer is, no, we didn't send you any people who were bankrupt because we just didn't send them. So yes, we provide that information in the API. It just will never be there. And that's how you handle that question. So it's a matter of like, I don't think AI is, I mean, it may be a problem that comes down the road. I don't think AI is the problem that we're seeing today. I think the problem that we're seeing today is we've been very loose about data. We've been very loose about treating, like a SIN number is a private key. It's a 9-digit private key. We've been very loose about handing those out like they're hotcakes. That doesn't work. Like, we know that doesn't work. We do it anyway. When you try to book something online, they may ask you to email you their passport. I had that happen like a couple weeks ago, just on the personal side. That's the thing that's going to burn us. It's not, I don't think it's actually AI. I think it's humans who have better tools. AI enables you to do more with the same resources. AI enables bad guys to do that, or bad humans to do the same with this, or to do more with the same resources.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that earlier. So I was having a conversation with some other people about Copilot, and I don't fully understand it, but what I do understand is the Copilot's there now, ready, shiny in the bottom corner. Like, turn it on and go, and it'll get access immediately to everything inside that Office 365 tenant. Now, think about doing that, and of course you're going to have these conversations with like the boss of those companies saying, I saw it, I want it, it's going to make everything faster, everybody's going to be better, it's going to be fantastic. But when you realize that if you do that without good risk analysis, and you realize that the minute it has access to all of that data, you take that bad actor in the company who's all like, wait, I want to find out what everybody else is earning. I want to find out, wait, I'm having a conversation with that other company, I'm going to see if I get the information on how we built that tool, right? So a person might go searching for that through SharePoint and may or may not have access to it, depending on the level, the budgets and the security teams. But if not, the speed at which you can get to negatively impacting information is exponential the minute you turn on something like Copilot.
Yeah.
So if you want to put a stopper in that, say, how certain are you that your executive compensation package isn't listed somewhere in SharePoint, and it shuts it down immediately? But to your point, though, what's interesting is I think we equate the danger of AI as being too intelligent. I have run into a problem that intelligence is not a mandatory to be dangerous. The little water-based chicken that goes up and down is really dangerous if you put it next to the nuclear button, right? So I think it comes down to like what we provided. I think that the question that keeps me up at night around AI is AI doesn't necessarily value us. So if the equation that's best doesn't include the person, you get to like the trolley example, like would you pull the lever to your child and like 5 other random people? AI is not going to hesitate. So that's the question. Like with your self-driving car. If my self-driving car, which can communicate with another car, knows that car's got 6 people and your car only has you, it's just a math equation for it at that time. So that's
Right, and that might be like, maybe that's the right answer.
Yeah.
But also,
That's not the answer you want to hear.
as a human, that's a horrible answer. It's a great point. Oh,
So I really like how you said about like it's you're basically, I think what I'm hearing is that you're not putting any particular distinction whether it's an AI, whether there's an AI feature in the tool or not. You're gonna. So do you? I guess my question is, do you treat it the same way, or as soon as there's like, oh, there's an AI feature built into this tool, and when you're doing the risk assessment, do you put that additional thing that you put in, like those extra questions?
it's
part of the due diligence question, or do you just SaaS tool now?
I do.
What's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna build it.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know what the cycle is.
Yeah.
But 2 months from now, they're gonna build it.
Yeah.
They're gonna make that OpenAI
Yeah.
call. Right?
And everyone's doing it.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's the same shit. Right?
Yeah.
OpenAI call. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Essentially. Right. And so.
And and there's this thing now where if I just make an open AI call now, I can sell you a thing that's AI, and it's like that's not add some value. I can make an open AI call. So the answer to your question is unsatisfyingly kind of. So these questions here, I do ask these when there's AI specific, but they're not fundamentally different than the root questions I ask. They're just more detailed. So if you rewind back to when cloud became big, everyone was saying it's in the cloud. What does that mean? Like explain it to me. Or if you rewind to when blockchain became a thing, it's blockchain. Okay, but like explain it to me. Like that, like what is it doing? These questions are to get them to explain it to me. So no, it's not any different, but it's kind of like evaluating vendors in hard mode. So they essentially, there's an obfuscation of what's really happening using hype. And what I noticed actually is if you flip this around and you ask the business why they want AI, you want to know what their answer is? Use cases. They give you the use case they never gave you before that you've been asking for. So you're like, well, if you had an AI that would do all the things, what would you have it do? Well, let me tell you, I have this report I have to run. I want this report to run on its own. Oh, okay. I just do that. Why didn't you tell me like 3 months ago? I could have just done it then. But it doesn't occur to people. But you have an AI assistant, right? So it's cool. So I can think about it differently. And so the magic causes people to think differently. And because of that, A, you get use cases, but B, it's much, much harder to uncover what it's really doing under the hood because nobody understands the magic. Like it's just doing stuff.
So that's interesting because you were talking about if you are going to accept an AI or
Right.
allow an AI to get used, thoroughly investigate it.
Right.
In a sense that they're, it's clear and indicated where it's going, where it can leak, what it's tapping into, where the calls are being made, if it is fenced.
You're never going to get a full explanation, just like you'll never get a full explanation if you ask, Amazon how their system works or Azure how their system works or, Apple how the guts of iOS works. They're never going to tell you. They'll tell you at a high level. But at least you get the high level. At least you get, here's the big boxes. Here's where data's going. So
You just get, it's AI.
right. So you want to transition from it's AI to, it's this smaller magic box talking to this smaller magic box in this way, and this smaller magic box does this thing here, so that you kind of have a large scale concept of what's going on. Then you have something, right? Then you have something to evaluate. You can kind of go like, what about that? And then get a competent answer.
Another kind of sort of question. Is there any industry where you guys feel that AI should not be in there because of the data is too sensitive? And I'll give you an example. What was it, like, was it 20 years ago? We had the e-health scandal, and that was like the big thing. And then they kind of stopped that. But now your health records, like when you go to Life Labs and you get blood work done, that goes into their system. It also goes to your doctor. Your doctor has full access to it. You go to the hospital, your doctor knows what the hospital did for you. It's all intertwined. So that e-health system is actually, it's there. It might not be called e-health, but that's an example. You start adding AI into that. Is that something where there just isn't enough privacy or security to keep that safe?
My personal opinion is that it's not really about the AI. It's about the controls. And so if you're bad at the controls in AI, you're probably bad at the controls everywhere else. So like AI is just, it's kind of like saying, is there a bad place to put PHP, right? Probably, but I mean, I could use different tools. I guess, but and lots of people have lots of complaints about PHP. You can do it safely. And I used PHP because that was my first job, and I saw a whole bunch of nightmares. I was doing Magento, so if those of you are familiar with Magento, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not familiar, count yourself lucky. But I don't think it's really about AI or not AI. I think it's about, are you putting in the controls? And whether AI is the right thing to solve that. AI is really computationally expensive. Do you need that? Or could you do it with a simpler machine model? Do you even need a machine model, or could you just do it with like a if-then case? Like, is it actually that simple? Because maybe it's actually that simple. A lot of times it's actually that simple. 99% of the use cases that came up about people wanting AI stuff when we were doing some initial talks were just tools that already exist off the shelf. We can just go buy those tools. It's great. So we bought more tools.
I'll give you a real, I don't know, maybe it's a weird question, but somebody came up with, somebody gave you basically SOC 2 report, ISO report, they gave you all the DD questions, right? And then they're like, there's an AI tool. Have you had to say no?
Yes.
Okay. Because they couldn't answer those?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's painful. It's really painful when you say, can you give me the thing without the AI tool? And they go, no. And you go, oh, okay. I guess it's no. Every time you say no, regardless of if it's an AI tool, every time you say no, you're hurting the business. So you have to think about like the no you say means they can't get their job done, which means a business objective goes unfulfilled. There's a reason why they went and did all that work. The people you work with, they're smart. If they're not, that gets solved a different way. But I always assume the people we're working with are smart. I've never been proven wrong. By the time something gets to me, a pile of work has gone in. They've thought about this a lot. They've come to some very reasonable conclusions. I'm new to this, making all kinds of assumptions about why they're picking this, how they got here. So I kind of park all that, and I just kind of assume they've done their homework, which they have. Saying no hurts.
So do you give them the framework? Like, for example, do you have a separate like AUP for AI tool, like acceptable use policy for AI in general, or do you treat it differently?
We're starting to get there. I give them as much as I can. The caution is that if I give them that and it gives them an answer that leads to a mistake, that's on me, right? So I give them as much as I can in terms of guidance, but it's still like I still have to evaluate them. I try to, as much as possible in other aspects, not be a gatekeeper. In vendors, I kind of have to be, but I try to give them as much heads up as possible so that, similar to kind of how our model works for members, we try to tell people, we can't guarantee approval, we can tell people it's very likely to get approved if you do these things, if you're in this situation. So that's essentially the same kind of thinking that I try to bring to a vendor conversation. Yeah.
So is it your personal risk model that you deploy at Borrowell, or is it a company culture risk model that you formulated, like along council, that determines like the answers based on what the vendor will say?
Yeah.
And the line between faith and trust, like
Yeah.
your personal lens, or is it Borrowell's leadership lens that takes that?
It's both. It has to be both. So the reason that we're calibrated the way we are, I'm calibrating based on feedback from my leadership team. So if my leadership team comes back and says, we need to be more cautious or we need to be less cautious, I have to follow that. I work for them ultimately. It's their company. But also, it's my job to, if I disagree with them, to say that and to say, no, I think we should do it differently. That means that sometimes I'm going to say really uncomfortable things. I've been really lucky that The company gives me a lot of space to say really uncomfortable things. We have those discussions. We get into the nitty gritty of exactly all the different things we're going to think about when we make decisions. It's really quite productive, and we can leave that conversation knowing that we've had a full discussion about it. We've considered everything. So you kind of have to hold both, and you can't ignore either. So you do have to bring kind of like they're paying you for your expertise, but also your approach to things, right? So you do have to say, like, these are things I can't square. I mean, initially, like early 2023, I said, I don't know how we can integrate LLMs and stay safe. So right now, I don't have a path to doing that. So I actually told them that. It's very risky to say that in my position, because I'm basically saying, I don't have a solution for you, which is my whole job. Now, obviously, they knew I was working on it. They were super patient while I worked through that. I put a bunch of time and effort into trying to get those answers, and I think we've kind of arrived at a good place. But you have to have that two-way. You have to have those two. Here's what the business wants. Here's also what I think based on everything I know. And you actually have a third one, which is go gut check that with other people. Like, say, here, in this concept, here's kind of where I'm landing. Please explain why I'm wrong. Ask people to tell you you're wrong. Ask people to tell you why you're wrong. Sometimes you'll get into a situation where they'll say, I can't find a reason why you're wrong. Go ask someone else. You want people telling you where the problems are in your mental model, because your job is to constantly break your mental model. The moment you stop breaking your mental model, you've stopped doing it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Why is it that vendor risk assessment takes up like 90% of your job?
Oh, it doesn't. This is a very small part. This is like.
So it's taking up a lot of my time right now, so I'm trying to figure out how to break away from this.
Right.
Because so to give context, I work at a VC firm and everybody
Right.
wants to jump on AI everything.
Right. That's hard.
I don't want to listen to it because I know that. Like I've encountered your example.
Yeah.
In like so many of my.
So I took example one. I gave this talk, by the way, internally a couple hours ago to my company. They know what company I'm talking about. I told them the name because it's internal, right? So I shamed it internally. They know. I take the examples of where I had to say no. I tell everybody. I give them the information. I'm very transparent about if this is a problem that I see, this is a problem that you see, unless I have a very good reason to keep, like, if it's like an internal threat thing, which thankfully, knock on wood, haven't had to deal with. But, that kind of situation you can't share. But for something like this, tell everybody. Ask them to be your security team. Tell them they are your security team, because they are. And take every opportunity when they're bringing you bad stuff to educate them. The ones who are interested will love that. The ones who aren't interested, they will want you to shut up. And the fastest way to get you to shut up is to stop bringing you stuff that won't pass. And so that, it works both ways.
We're gonna do one more question and then we're gonna end it off and end the year.
I think that topic of like external parties is an interesting one. Are there
Yeah.
any external resources that you use, like the Helm framework to look at models? I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I don't have, I've kind of tire kicked at Helm. I've tire kicked it. We don't actually use NIST. I've tire kicked at it. I've tire kicked it a bunch of them. We're funded by Portage, and that VC has their own proprietary kind of security evaluation framework that's developed by a really bright person, Joseph Lau. There, we use that because it's very lightweight, and it's really kind of designed for startups like us. That's, we're kind of lucky that we're in that network and we get to kind of benefit from having that expertise. So we use that a lot. And then, I'd say that I'm kind of, I'm a weird duck. I'm kind of developing my own kind of approach. I don't feel like I really agree with any one framework, any one person on it. I'm kind of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And kind of, what I do is I use a framework where it works and I throw it out where it doesn't. And I do that not just in security, but in everything. So if it works, great. As soon as it doesn't, I toss it. I have that approach with vendors too, right? If you're solving a problem, fantastic. I love you. As soon as you're not solving a problem, cool, you're done. And it seems very cold, but you get to a place where you're able to solve a lot of problems and not get like too attached to the stress of having to change things all the time. You just get used to changing stuff. So that doesn't really answer your question, I feel like, but
It's a good answer because I think it's a good question. I know where it's been called from.
Yeah.
Spencer, can I wrap up on a final fun question?
Yeah, sure.
When you interact with ChatGPT or LLM, do you say thank you and good morning and praise it?
Always.
Or do you just say, hey bot, do what you want, or to Jim's point, when it takes over the world, will you be on the good books?
I am always polite with my bots. I, for one, welcome our new robot overlords. I think that they're great and they're doing a great job if they're listening.
Yeah.
And
Siri can't hear you right now.
If they're not listening and there's humans listening, you're doing a wonderful job too. Thank you for everything you do. No, but seriously though, there's you don't really know if something's a bot or something's a human. You know if you're interacting directly with ChatGPT, but there's a real mix nowadays. I try to finish every conversation trying to let whoever's on the other line know that any of the issues I'm bringing up are not about them specifically, and that that there's a difference between raising the issue and the job that they're doing, right? So this comes up a lot with vendors. I've told vendors, you're doing a great job, your company's letting you down. This is a recorded call, please share this with them, right? I've said that. If you are a vendor, you won't be this room, but if you're on the call, you'll know that I've done this. But it's true, right? You're dealing with humans. Even if you're dealing with ChatGPT, somewhere down the line there's humans. It's actually humans all the way down. So a lot of civility goes a long way. You'd be surprised.